Okay. Welcome, everyone, to Early Care Connection. I'm Izzy Greenberg. Today, we have our resident panel of experts, Meryl Gay from the Connecticut Early Childhood Alliance and Ava Bermuda Zimmerman from Child Care for CT. Start by thanking Sandra for providing interpretation for us and remind everyone to please speak slowly enough that she can do her job well and without stress, including me, and also to remind our community here to use the chat for technical difficulties and comments between the community, but to use the Q&A for questions for our panelists. We have about a half hour, maybe a little bit more, with a special guest this morning. We've got Caitlin Peruccio joining us this morning. She is Legislative Counsel and Senior Policy Advisor with Congresswoman DeLauro's office. And because I know she has to jump off, we're going to just get right into it. She is here to talk about the latest in DC. Future funding, there was a lot of cuts this week that had big impacts on childcare, and so wanted to open it up to Caitlin to give you all the rundown, and then we will take questions. So please hold off on putting questions into the Q&A until she's finished, just to make my job a little easier if you all don't mind. Okay, Caitlin, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us from your office.
Thanks so much for having me, and I appreciate that because I'll get distracted looking at the questions too. So it's so great to be with you this morning. My name is Caitlin, and I work for Rosa. I've been with her over 7 years, and I'm going to sound a bit like a harbinger of doom. I promise I'm really not, but just wanted to discuss what has been happening in DC. And I think what you all are seeing in the news is it is absolutely catastrophic what is happening. The Department of Health and Human Services had essentially a purge last week, and staff was reduced in great numbers. And we know for a fact for the big impact for Connecticut is the field office for ACF. Everyone was fired. And so that raises a number of questions for all of you about who do you call when you have a question? How is money going to get sent out the door? And to be honest, we have those same questions too. RFK Jr., essentially in his video that I did not watch, said that the agency needs to do more with less, which I don't think anyone has ever said, and said that happily, but apparently that is where the new administration is going. And so one ask that we have for all of you is to keep us posted. If you're running into issues, we can try to see how we can be as helpful as best as possible. The reality is we're not getting a lot of answers from this administration. So that's why it's helpful if we hear from you what's going on. And so that way we could try to see what we can do. We view what has happened as completely illegal in a lot of instances, just given the massive restructuring of the Department of Health and Human Services. And so these are things that the very smart lawyers, the Attorney General are all looking into to see what recourse there is. In terms of funding outlook, we had a continuing resolution that Rosa voted against, but that means we are looking at 24 levels, which, to be candid, was childcare fared very well. There was and Head Start, there was $1 billion increase in 24. So that level, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. Let me pull out my chart really quick. Is what the level will be for 25 with the caveat that is if the administration decides to spend that. And that is a big if, and why we're monitoring closely, and especially if you folks are not getting any of your funding in a timely manner, in the event they are impounding money. Yep, Head Start in 2024 was $12.27 billion, and child CCDBG was 8.76. So those are the levels for 25. We're starting the fiscal year 26 process. We're going to be fighting to protect all of the funding that we have and the strides that we have made. Considering when I started with Rosa in fiscal year, I think it was 2018, we were at like $4.5 billion for CCDBG. So we have really drastically scaled that, but we need to fight to protect that. Unfortunately, there could be a scenario where the new administration and the Republican Congress wants to cut back on funding, but I can assure you Rosa will be fighting like hell against those cuts because we know we need further investments, not less. Um, and so I say all of this that it is pretty bleak down here. But Rosa is fighting back and using her role on appropriations to try to draw attention as much as possible. But um, we need your help. And the Connecticut delegation is in the right spot. So well, we're encouraging folks, if you know people in red states or red districts, they need to be contacting their members, um, going public about this, and invite them to come see what you all are doing to the extent possible and say what happens if funding for Head Start or CCDVG um, is cut and what that would mean to the families. And so I'm happy to chat further on that. McV is mandatory funding, but again, with this administration, how things have been implemented in the past is really up in the air. I would also note for anyone that works with Healthy Start is not explicitly in bill text. So in the context of a continuing resolution, there is a possibility this administration decides not to spend that money because it's not explicitly in bill text. Again, we have a massive problem with that and view the language from the 24 bill that says this is the money for Healthy Start should continue, and that is what we will be pushing for. But there is a grave concern that this administration will not spend the funding as was outlaid in fiscal year 2024. So we're just going to be vigilant in monitoring that. But that's, like, again, I can't reiterate enough. You're the ones that receive the grants, and if you're not receiving them, you need to let us know immediately. And I can throw my email into the chat. Happy to answer any and all questions. And certainly if you're not in Rose's district, that's okay. But I would also flag it for your representatives as well. But I think with that, that's kind of the overview. I know it's very doom and gloom, but I just want to be very honest and transparent with you.
Caitlin, could you talk a little bit about the budget reconciliation process and
Oh gosh,
doing
how could
all
I
that?
forget that god awful thing? So as you all probably saw, the House Republicans voted on a budget resolution that at a minimum would cut $880 billion from Medicaid, all to set the stage for massive tax breaks for billionaires and corporations. We don't support that. And again, this is where we're going to need some Republicans to join with the Democrats because Democrats are all on the same page. Um, the Senate and the House Republicans are having a bit of a disagreement about how they're going to do this. So, I mean, the best case scenario, to be candid, would be for this to fall apart. And that could potentially mean the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act would expire. But we have some time until then, but Rosa views Medicaid, the impact to Medicaid is something that we need to keep highlighting. Again, you're all in Connecticut and we all agree. So it's really going to take some Republicans to say they cannot do this. But the state of Connecticut has done some modeling for the delegation and for the legislature, and just how utterly devastating those cuts to Medicaid would be. I mean, it might not be enough to eliminate Husky D, but it could, they could potentially have to limit services or things of that nature, and that just would be placing folks in positions that they shouldn't be in, deciding who or what gets care, or how frequently or for how frequently, how long, and the types of services. But I mean, that's the Medicaid's the big item there, unless they decide to touch Medicare, which who can say they might, but Medicaid is really at risk at the moment.
So you said, well, I guess the question is, what does it mean to be fighting like hell? What are other mechanisms available to Representative DeLauro and others, but her specifically, sitting on appropriations?
So for us, it's telling these stories. I will tell you, we cannot sue. The only person that can sue in the House of Representatives is Mike Johnson. So that's why Attorney General Tong has been leading the charge with a number of Democratic attorney generals. So we are working to support with amicus briefs for information to the litigators on this. I mean, ultimately, these bills have to be a four corners negotiation, and so she knows where we need to be going. But no, to be candid, like the Republicans have the majority. This is a numbers game. The Senate math makes it a little bit more interesting, but in the House, it is very much like there is a small majority. It just got a little bit larger. I believe their majority is around 7 now, but all it takes is 7 Republicans, which doesn't seem like a lot, but there's enough of them in some pretty tough districts to say we can't support cuts of the order of magnitude that are being proposed.
Yeah. And then if people just saw it pop into the chat, I was just starting to take my own notes around what our community can do. And I think having specifics that people can leave here with. So one, if they are not getting their grants on time, they can call Rosa's office. Two,
Yeah.
if they have friends, family, anyone in other states, that they can encourage to call their federal delegation.
Yep.
But if you don't, what if neither of those things applies to you? I know a lot of people felt that going to the rallies this weekend was really meaningful for them personally.
Yeah.
And I think people are right now, and even if you didn't, and even if that wasn't your perspective, fine. But I think people right now, if you're looking at childcare and you're saying, oh crap, there's this is a little scary. I feel energized to do something. People feel energized to do something for lots of reasons. And if those two things don't apply to you, what other recommendations do you have for our community? This is childcare. We have, parents, we have kids, we've got teachers, we've got a lot of folks who are using a lot of programs who are at risk. What are the top steps that you could recommend?
Well, I mean, my biggest steps are just it's really at this juncture targeting Republicans. So, but not everybody knows folks in Republican districts and states. But if you do, that is going to be critical. But it's also engaging on a local level to remind leaders. Some folks might live in towns that might not recognize how much federal funding they're receiving, and trying to tell that story. Rosa does a meeting with the mayors of the 3rd Congressional District every year. And there was a question about like how many folks in their town are on Medicaid, to remind, everyone, like, this is who's covered by Medicaid. Also, maybe a reminder of what happened in the olden days, pre-Affordable Care Act, which wasn't really that long ago. CCDBG is entirely federally funded. That's another conversation that we won't get into, but like, to remind, community members that if this goes away, how might the community have to step in? Are they going to be able to? And that, I think, is a big question. Are you on Head Start, LIHEAP? I mean, and hopefully it's getting warmer, so it's not as much of an issue. But reminding the your local, whether it's my hometown of Manchester, it's the board of directors, it could be the board of selectmen, etc. Like, just a reminder for folks. Oh yes, thank you for clarifying. That's Care for Kids. Sorry, I'm in my DC acronym speak, so my apologies. That they have impacted residents and constituents that this matters to, and that they should also then take a skin in the game. And maybe it's your Republican state rep or state senator or first selectman or director that knows Republicans, who can get in touch with some of their folks to say, hey, this is going to be really bad. This is not a path you want to go down.
And let me just have a follow-up, which is that I know there's been both criticism, and we try to keep things nonpartisan here. We know Rosa fights hard for our communities, and she is also a Democrat. We know that there's been a lot of target Republicans and get them to help educate them. But there also must be something that you can do if you live in a Democratic district. And is there education that can be happening if your delegates are Democrats, or if your friends and family live in Democratic are represented by Democrats in the federal delegation? Is it education? Like, is it, hey, here's the facts you need to go and talk to your Republican counterparts? Are there things that folks can do?
I mean, to be candid, like, Democrats talking to Republicans right now, they don't want to hear from us. They're only going they're only going to move if their constituents, if they feel pressure back home. You can always thank folks. That's also fine too, because people have to make difficult choices. Again, like I don't see our delegation um, falling for any of these tactics, if you will. But it's you can always thank folks. We do get a lot of great data from various national orgs, from all of you. So and we recognize the value of these programs. We actually come to visit them, and that's, again, if folks in Republican areas, invite them to come again, see what hopefully seeing is maybe believing. And would get them to understand that, like, if funding, say for like a Care for Kids, whatever their equivalent is in their states, that like, oh, 2 classrooms would have to close. Folks can, Rose would say, you can write an op-ed, you can write letters to editors, maybe partner with members of the business community that recognize the value of these programs, and try to figure out who the best messenger is for a given member. Also, if you have colleagues that request a meeting with their members and they choose not to, Rosa will say, you can throw your own press conference and say, we invited member X to come and they did not show up, and here's who would be impacted, and things of that nature. It's all Rosa come from the campaign school, the school of campaigning and politics, and so it's a ground game. It's drawing that local sentiment so that you have members say, I can't support drastic cuts.
Yeah, thank you. Ava, you have a question?
Just a comment to echo what Caitlin was saying, that it's really necessary to understand what the impact actually looks like. And here in Connecticut, just on Medicaid, 50% of the babies born in the whole state are born under Medicaid funding. So everyone on this call, in addition to the cuts that are happening in the Department of Health and Human Services, and Department of Education, the restructuring, it's also the babies and the families that you're interacting with and how they get their families started. It's truly from the ground up affecting everyone.
Yeah, thank you. There's another question here. Do you see the cutbacks as cuts to entire programs or a weeding out process?
Oh, don't know that I understand the question. Cutbacks. I think it depends on, sorry, I'm reading it now. I think could potentially eliminate some programs. There's also scenarios where they could be really tightening up eligibility. So it's really hard to say. I will tell you, in the last several House appropriations bills that the Republicans have written, for example, they've eliminated Healthy Start entirely. They've eliminated the social services block grant because they were also just trying to meet a dollar amount that they imposed on themselves to cut programs. So if the Republicans decide to go through with massive cuts, I think we could see more of that. I hope not. But I also think it becomes we were discussed earlier that the field offices were cut. So you might not be cutting the funding, but you're eliminating the staff that would then implement these programs, which will lead to delays. It might take a while to get answers from folks. And so I think we need to see how this happens in practice. But I think we have to be aware is that this is real. And again, just keep us posted if you're running into any issues.
Yeah. You must also be worried about brain drain. I mean, if we have people with
absolutely. Yep. And it's a challenge of, like, where do those folks go? And that's, the federal government is not just in DC, it's all over the country. And so, what happens to those folks, and, where do they get hired? And then, at some point we're going to have to rebuild, but that's going to take some time, and you're not going to be able to restart things overnight. And so, this is certainly not where Rosa would go if she had a magic wand, that's for sure.
Yes. There is a lot going on in the chat also, which I have to catch up on. Meryl, do you have another question?
I was just going to say that in that issue of, are they just weeding out, or are they, what's going on in federal agencies right now is Doge comes in and sort of downloads everything and installs a new loyal leader in the agency, and then the staff are all like, okay, what's going on? And in the middle of the night, things get sent out from Doge, and then people get laid off and they don't know what's going on. It's complete chaos in a lot of federal agencies right now. And for those of us getting close to retirement, the stuff about Social Security is certainly not encouraging either.
No. And oftentimes what they're doing is, so for, they fired a lot of probationary workers, so that was found to be illegal. But what they're doing now is bringing people back and then just putting them on administrative leave.
Yep.
And so then we're spending money for folks not to be doing it. To me, that's real government waste. And with a number of these programs, we've made these investments. So to then just like essentially put a pause on them, like we're wasting money. And so it's it doesn't have to be this way, folks. It
Right.
doesn't. And so, but again, like I think are in a bit of a better position being from Connecticut. But but what happens in the federal government is, and what the administration decides is going to have a large impact. So we can't say this doesn't impact us. That's like a red state problem. Like it's going to impact everyone. And as of right now, a lot of where some of these decisions are being blocked is frankly in the courts. And we've found they've ruled to stop some of these cuts, but they just allowed for some Department of Education cuts to go through. So it's depends on the case.
And when you eliminate all the staff who administer a program, even if you
Oh, yeah.
cut the funding
It's
at, the question of like, how does that program survive? And that's probably a pretty good indicator that it's one of the programs that's on the chopping block for congressional budget process.
right. And it also it just begs the question of like, okay, so we're going to keep all this funding, whether they spend it is a really big question. And if they choose not to spend it, that is illegal. That is called impoundment. But it could take, I know a lot of folks get frustrated by the delays, and we get frustrated by the delays of getting money out the door because we want you to have, the funding that you need. But it's going to take much, much longer. And that means folks might have to say, really trying to balance budgets when they're already very difficult. And, if you have an issue with your application or things of that nature. And so, again, just keep us posted as things evolve.
Ava, did you have other questions? Okay. All right. Well, I also don't see other questions from the community. Meryl, anything you'd like to wrap up with?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what the timeline is for the budget reconciliation process and where we see that going.
I wish I knew. We might be voting on something this week. There's some very large disagreements between House and Senate Republicans. I should also flag this is a purely partisan process at this point. We have no input into this. There could be a vote this week, but then I would also flag Congress is going on recess for the next 2 weeks. So possibly much more movement at the end of April. Probably at the earliest, but they have to work out their differences because they are disagreeing about, and this is a large disagreement over the tax package in particular, about how not to bore you with tax policy, but like how they're counting, like extending the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. How, like, are they counting that as just like current spending, which they shouldn't. But how much they're going to spend. And again, a lot of this is they're not going to bring back the child tax credit like we all saw in 2021. That is not on the table. It is going to be massive tax cuts for billionaires and the largest corporations, while then hurting the most vulnerable on Medicaid. So I can tell you Rose is a no on that if that's the road that they end up going down.
Yeah, thank you. Ava, did you have another question?
I had a comment. I just wanted to share with everyone that when we were in conversation with Rosa's team, she is going to make a commitment to come on one of our Monday calls in the next few weeks. We're aiming for the National Day of Action, May 12th. But if we can't get May 12th, because she is a busy woman, there is a commitment from her to be on this call and talk to the community.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Caitlin. I think
Of
that's it.
course. Thank you so much for having me. I put my email in the chat. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I cover everything in HHS for Rosa. So whether that's Medicaid, DCDVG, Head Start, NIH research, you name it, that's me. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you so much. And we got you out of here just on time. Perfect.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Have a great afternoon.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so yes, it's a little harbinger of doom, especially for childcare. And I guess we've got to shift now to a little bit of state policy also, because we've got a lot going on at the state level. Meryl, why don't you get us started?
Sure. Sorry. This week, the governor will be holding a roundtable at the Capitol with Walter Gilliam, who used to be at Yale and is now with the Buffett Early Learning, whatever it's called. And then on Wednesday, the Alliance will be holding our Advocacy Day at the Capitol. As you all know, there are lots of bills this year on early childhood, everything from allowing family child care to grow larger, to serve 12 children, to a proposal for health benefits for early educators, as well as the big bills to put more money into early childhood to make it affordable for more families and pay early educators more. So I am going to drop into the chat a link to the Advocacy Day. If I could spell and talk at the same time.
Meryl, I also have the email invitation on the governor's roundtable. Should I share that in the?
Yep,
that's open to anyone?
Yep, it is open to anyone.
All right, folks, this will be a little bit of a long piece of text here if I can grab it. Actually, it might not let me put the whole thing in, to be honest with you. It's too much. Okay.
Well, is there. All right. So we're going to this evening be doing a virtual rally with Corey Paris in advance of Wednesday's Advocacy Day. At Advocacy Day, we'll have a morning legislative breakfast followed by a press conference, and then we'll be lobbying legislators. We'll also have a little Lakeshore mini classroom set up on the ground floor of the Capitol. Anybody who can come up, we would love to have you there. And please drop your name and information into that link that we stuck in there for Advocacy Day.
So just so everyone here knows, coming up, this is, I hope, been taking you along on the legislative session journey so that you feel like you're up to date. It is a little complicated. Lots of childcare bills were introduced, which I think is an unbelievable success for our community to have our issue be so top of mind. Now we're in the process where all of those bills get kind of smushed up and figured out, and some will emerge and some will die. And so this is the time, I know we keep saying this, there was time that was really important to let them know that you cared about these childcare bills and to get them out of committee. That time has passed now. Now we're at the time where we say, childcare is really important. Please please end up with the proposals that are going to do the most good for our community. And so there's lobby days coming up. Meryl's got his Advocacy Day this week. There will be lobby days every Wednesday in May. May 7th is Connecticut's Day of Action, Morning Without Childcare. And if you're on the Childcare for CT mailing list, you'll be getting information about that. It'll also go in the ECE listserv. The National Day Without Childcare, I believe, is May 12th. There are partners of our communities that are going to be having advocacy days at the Capitol. So Connecticut Project is having one. The End Child Poverty Coalition is having one. There's so many different groups that are going to be hosting events at the Capitol. So if you find that you suddenly have a surprise afternoon off because you went to the dentist and you decided you wanted to take the rest of the day, I don't know what your schedule is like, but you have a surprise day off and you want to head to the Capitol, there will be opportunity for you to talk to people. And if you aren't going on an organized day, I hope you will reach out to anyone here, to Ava, to Meryl, to any of our team, to me, of course, and say, you know, okay, I can just pop by today. Who am I looking for and what should I say? It doesn't have to be an organized day. Getting in front of any delegates, any state legislators, and helping them understand why childcare matters and why they need to prioritize it. That's the name of the game right now. So keep an eye out for any actions. Lots of the groups here that you trust will be coming out with actions over the next month. The legislative session ends, I believe, June 10th, or it's early June 7th, somewhere in there. 4th? Oh, okay. June 4th, the last day of session. So we've got a month and a half to push these things over the finish line and get the best that we can out of this session. So please understand that when we're asking you to do stuff right now, it really matters. And I know it always matters. So I don't want to be a boy who cries wolf, but it really matters right now because we've actually got some momentum. Okay, Meryl or Ava, do you have more to add?
I did see a question here about whether the Governor's Roundtable is going to be broadcast on CTN, and yes, it will be at 11 o'clock tomorrow. So you can watch it there. And then
you can just go to CTN, their YouTube. They've got all their live streams right there.
Yeah. And then the question, how does the federal picture possibly impact the state budget process? Is leadership still committed to the ECE, not knowing the federal funds might be severely cut? So we have a bunch of bills that were conceived before these cuts came through. Most of them, well, pretty much all of the big ones are contingent on there being unappropriated surpluses. And, you know, that is essentially based on the notion that the fiscal guardrails will remain and generate sort of forced savings that could get put into an early childhood endowment or fund or whatever. What will happen when we finally see the results of the new congressional budgeting process with the big cuts in Medicaid? Those cuts could be anywhere between $1 billion and $2 billion to Connecticut. We don't know how deep they will be because we don't know the formula they're going to use to make those cuts. There's $880 billion they're trying to cut out of that committee's appropriation capacity or whatever. So we don't know yet. And my assumption is that at some point when that becomes clear, the legislature will probably have to go back into a special session and try and adjust stuff.
We don't know, but I think that there's also a case to be made that Connecticut needs to protect itself, and that fixing some of these things so that we're not shocked and left empty if federal cuts do go through. I think there's a case to be made there that this is something we need to invest in, lest those dollars go away and we are then stuck. So I don't know. That's the pitch I would make personally. Ava. But wait, Ava, people can't hear you.
I can hear her.
Let me,
I'm not sure.
you know what? It's because, folks, you're probably not in the English or Spanish feed.
Yeah.
So click on interpretation and choose English. Or, yeah, you're in the English feed, of course. Yes, and Vanessa's reminding folks, if you have the Alliance's blue strong start
On
sheet,
Wednesday, yeah.
to wear those as well. Go ahead, Eva. Yeah, because even if you're walking around and you don't recognize a delegate, they see you in your shirt. They know what you're there for. And so even if you don't have a chance to talk to them, there's a message that has still been sent to them. So there is power in that. And if you need shirts, we can get them for you. Meryl's got them. We've got them. So I would say, let me put I'll put the email. It's info@earlycareconnection.org. I'll put that in and you can email us and we can find a way to get that to you.
Yep. And we will have t-shirts for folks at the Capitol on Wednesday.
Yeah, and if you go to any of the events, the lobby days or any organization's lobby days, either the Early Childhood Alliance or Childcare for CT, people will have t-shirts there for you. But if you want to go on your own time, amazing, and we will get you one. Okay, is that it, guys? All right. Morning Without Childcare again is May 7th. Yep, and you can go to, I'll put the link. Actually, today, 1 month out, we are going to be putting the signups out for Morning Without Childcare. They're not up right now, but they will be up by the end of the day. And so if you want to sign up for the rally in your town, or if you want to have a rally in your town and you feel like organizing it, you can get in touch with us, childcareforct.org/. All right, so that link may or may not be live just yet, but it will be by the end of the day. All right, great. Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, pretty bleak. Pretty bleak. Everybody's feeling pretty bleak. But I am feeling uplifted by this community. I want to say that. And you know what? Last week, I think it was Eid, and we forgot to wish people an Eid Mubarak. So 1 week late. I'm sorry for that. And it was also Nowruz. So Nowruz Mubarak as well, if you were celebrating that. And I don't know, this community gives me a lot of joy, fills my cup. I hope it does for you guys too, in a time when we are facing a lot of potential problems. So let's keep going. Let's keep fighting. That's what we've got. That's all we've got. We've got our energy and our input and our voice and our numbers. Is that next week? Okay, that's the 14th. Yeah, that's right. Janice Grindell will be here from CT 359 and Kenny Kern. Someone from Chris Murphy's office. Okay, perfect. Yes, that page, that's great. I just reshared Morning Without Childcare link.
Yeah, the link was not working.
Yeah, no, I just reshared. It's because we're launching it later today.
Okay.
I'll delete it. Well, it doesn't matter. Either one's going to work. This one works right now, and you can stop back there later today for the links to sign up. They're not live yet. They will be by later today. Do we have an outline of key issues in each child care bill that's out there now? Meryl, I think you had put something like that together. Is it accurate and up to date?
I'll share the link here for the list of bills and where we are at with things now. Get to it, show it with everybody.
If you go to the Morning Without Childcare link right now, you will see a fantastic video from last year's rally, get you pumped up. And by tonight or tomorrow morning, you can click back to that same link for all of the signups.
I get a 404 error when I look at your link.
The Morning Without Childcare one, the second one?
Yeah.
I am.
Still takes us to
Okay, I'll fix it. Well, then it'll be back. This is the thing. It's literally, we're in the process of getting all of those links updated for launch later today. So if you're getting an error, don't worry about it. It will be up by later today. That's just to keep you excited and waiting and anticipatory. Big surprises on the horizon. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. See everybody.
Have a wonderful day.